like 10 seconds to go.
No, you could.
You're fine.
Maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think it just hit 7 o'clock, so we probably should call our meeting to order.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nothing
ready.
exciting.
We start with pledge allegiance. Yeah, I did not. Pledge allegiance to the flag
In the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
with my own. Any little print. Next, we've got roll call. Irvin, present.
Bigger one?
Simon.
Yep.
The freshie?
Yeah.
Oh, we've already got an excuse. Leo Wicker,
Yeah,
Gray,
I'm here.
Benzinger.
Here. And Joe had a out of town appointment this evening.
No problem.
No signal. Oh, shit. Oh, that.
Has everyone had a moment to take a look at the agenda?
Yes. Make a motion, we accept it. And a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same side. Perfect. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yes.
Yep.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Great,
Just done that.
Just
moving along.
flying right along here tonight.
Now, in conclusion.
I've been going since 5:15 this morning, guys.
We need to get the coffee back going. There you go.
No, I was scared I was gonna be late and I was.
You were our.
Made it, you were fine. I don't know what talking about that.
You
All
were.
right, we're gonna move on to, I have no report for the chairperson other than skating in on 2 wheels. So we'll turn it over to the village manager.
Not a whole heck of a lot to cover, community raised about $9,000 for fireworks. That was a very nice, support this year, pretty consistent with past years. It was a new company this year, so we had some changes that we had to accommodate based on the development on Fairway Drive, so we had to limit shell size, and we tried to push it as far up that berm as we could to get to a safe distance from the newest home there. The rule of thumb in the industry is for every 1 inch of diameter, you need 70 feet. So we can do that, but the complicating factor is you add the elevation to the berm and, now you're maybe not that 70, so you really had to go further out than what we've done in the past. Because in the past, we try to be more in the middle of the berm. It's just not practical to do that way anymore, so. Haven't had any negative feedback from anybody about the show. Everything went very smooth that night. Despite, so. As you know, we use the fire department. They're out that night. They had a rescue run at 8 p.m. They had another rescue run at 9:40 p.m. and a third rescue run at 10:15 p.m.
All the way from the lake.
2 in the lake, 1 away from the lake.
Oh.
It was like,
We're there, but we're not really there though.
thankfully they had enough personnel, and Deerfield was always backfilled the event, so it all worked out well, but it was like another rescue run, another one after that, so. Next week, we're doing, I think the village is participating in an exercise with Isabella County, the LFUA, Eagle. It's a walkthrough kind of tabletop of the emergency action plan for the dam. So the state required new EAPs for all dams a couple of years ago after the issues downstream. And Lake Isabella's got a new one this year, so they're going to put us all together and figure out a scenario to walk through and see what everybody's gonna do in that type of event, so. The EAP has different type of scenarios that could happen to the dam with, like a probable, not probable type thing, so. It'll be a good exercise, I think. George and I have had a couple of conversations about just some of the practical parts in the plan, like. Our DPW facility is probably far better equipped to stack sand or sandbags if we need it. It's closer. We have more equipment. We have 3 tractors. There's a lot of things that we just have to work together and, I think no one's gonna have an issue if we put stage and put stuff over there, if there was an actual event type stuff, and just even to keep it there as like pre-mitigation type plan type thing.
So is this like if the dams upriver break and flow down, or is this our dam?
It's our dam.
So there's some people down the river that have a problem, but it should.
Most likely, yeah.
Up here, yeah.
Yeah,
We don't have any dam north of us, do we?
yeah, we do.
We do?
Yeah,
Barrington.
Barrington.
Oh, isn't it just like a tiny little thing though, or is it a regular?
No, I would say Barrington's impoundment's probably about 1/10 our size,
Oh,
so,
okay,
but you've got 15 miles of
water.
water
Okay.
that's gonna have,
Yeah.
same with us, like Mount Pleasant's so far downstream that like our inundation zone from our dam,
Mhm.
M20 is not even gonna notice realistically
Right.
anything.
So
but-
is there a plan that if that dam breaks, that we open up this one? Or is there anything online? Are they gonna talk about that at all?
The EAP, has specifics on who's gonna be responsible for what, but, if Barrington's Dam were to fail, I quite frankly don't think we would need to do anything to ours,
I would say maybe,
unless you're having a catastrophic rain event on top of it.
I would say opening the gates fully would probably be the only thing.
That's what I
Everything
was
else is
thinking.
holding
Yeah.
back.
There's a process.
Yeah, the biggest concern are the berms themselves,
Yeah.
whether they hold up.
But a lot of that's gonna fall under the jurisdiction of the drain commissioner. So like in the past, when we've had big rain events forecast, we've leaned into him and said, should you give someone the order to maybe go and open the dam? So technically, he's the responsible one, not us. Yeah, it's a good idea. Someone should go, so. But part of the problem you have in those type of events is, your forecast could be 48 hours out that you're gonna have 5 inches of rain.
Right.
But that area in the map is huge, and not all that area is gonna get 5 inches, it's gonna be one spot in there, so. Wisconsin this last weekend, there was a whole wide part of the state that was gonna get catastrophic rains, and it was just outside of Milwaukee that got it, so. Better safe than sorry, I know, but. Should be an interesting experience to say the least. We've been doing E. coli testing all summer on the lake. It's been fine, doing that with, the health department. We're looking at replacing the sign in front of DPW property with an LED type display. We have a new tractor that we've been using to do a lot of mowing on the road shoulders. We've got an attachment that we can get out further and get more brush with it. They can also operate vertically, so you can come in and give it a buzz cut on the side, then cut it back, type deal.
Imagine Jerry probably liking that.
Jerry loves to go with, we got a cab, so.
Oh, that's right.
It's cab, got
You
air
AC
conditioning,
now?
yeah, it's fantastic. We are looking at extending our agreement with King's Disposal. Met with them a couple weeks ago. They want to do a 5-year renewal for us, which I think everyone's gonna be fine with.
Yep.
Any great service to the community.
Any price increases on that?
Not right away, no,
Okay.
no. So, other than that,
Yeah, I'm actually surprised, the gas prices.
yeah, no, they've been fantastic. They've been good in that area. They really have been.
If you could, forward on, but my compliments to the new firework company. I really like the selection of fireworks to shut off.
Mhm.
Stuff I have never seen before.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was impressed knowing that we weren't gonna have as big a, shells, but the show was good show. I like the selection, not to oohs and ahs.
I mean, we could see it from my house for a change.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, first time we could see the whole show.
Oh, wow.
Usually you see the top of it going.
I don't know, that's
above the
because we got
trees.
further down.
Right,
Yeah, because we weren't going higher, in the past, we've done 8s and we were capped at 6, so.
yeah, but I guess.
Maybe next year, it's gonna come
Cool.
to the house.
And then last but not least, we had a cityhood informational meeting this morning, wasn't widely attended, but we've had. One of those, we have another one Thursday night, we talked about it extensively at council, in August, and we're gonna, or July, and we'll talk about it again next Tuesday night at council, so. That is my report. Be the council report now if you want.
I was just going to ask, can you represent council as well?
I'll do council for you. At our last meeting, a couple of big action items came through. First were committee appointments, and it was, as the phrase would say, an embarrassment of riches, because not only did we have all 5 incumbents asked to be reappointed, but we also had 5 additional community members submit applications for appointment, and you know, unfortunately, we just didn't have spaces to put everybody, but it was certainly an encouraging sign to see new people want to get involved. So hopefully, as people, you know, stay in the community, can get more involved and find places to plug in. You know, since we don't have a ton of boards right now that need people on them. You know, the lake committee, they do their own appointments kind of off schedule of the rest of the group, so. We did do a community Q&A at the last council meeting for cityhood. Had some good questions. Took a lot of the feedback from the first ones and retweaked the presentation a little bit to focus a lot of the early talk time on, you know, these are the 3 areas that we see. There's additional funding needs in our community, and kind of elaborate on what those are in greater detail in terms of actual numbers and specifics. So they did the street one at the last meeting. This morning one, we talked streets and police in there as part of that one. Which also leads to the next big action item, was that they approved an agreement with the city of Mount Pleasant for kind of a limited additional patrols in the village. Realistically, you're looking at maybe about 20 hours a month, just based on the cost component of that. We have that in place to the end of 2026. And quite frankly, we have no idea what's happening at the county level. And that's a huge, and what if and what do we do? Because, you know, I would hope they would want to put something on the ballot in 26, but I'm not seeing anything that indicates they're planning on doing that. You know, so from our perspective, you know, you don't want to do the capital outlay to start a department if you don't have to. We'd also much rather prefer to contract out to keep as much of that liability exposure outside of this building. You know, so hopefully something happens in that front in a productive manner in the near future. But as of right now, we don't have any direction from them. And we're just kind of seeing where we're at. We have the police agreement with the city to kind of lean into when we need to. Get some patrols out here just for visibility, you know, let people know that we have coverage still. But yeah, it's not a great scenario, just because we don't know. There's just so many unknowns, because even if they do present something, is it gonna be voted in? Is people gonna vote for it?
Even if they did, they got to hire all these new people, buy all the new cars.
How big of an apartment are they gonna have? Are
Right.
they gonna go back to the full 20? Are they gonna try to go small?
Right, and it's not like they're just gonna start up the next day,
Yeah.
6 months or a year, I think that's what they're.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, it's,
Buying and doing all that stuff, so.
you know, because on top of that, you've also got to factor in, all right, in the past, it was all or nothing is what they presented to us as voters of Isabella County. And, you know, there are other scenarios out there where they could have a smaller number of deputies from their department. And then, you know, places that were contracting for service say, hey, if you want to do this, you need to have a full-time person for yourself, you know, so they might have 6 or 7 out of the general fund, and you've got Beal City paying for one out of the school resource fund, we're paying for another one, you know, Wise Township and Union, like, you could get 12 or 13 back that way without having the general fund be the full bearer of that cost at the county level. They've just shown no interest in doing that at this point in time, so.
So when's the city taking effect?
It is in effect. We haven't had our first patrol yet, but the contract's in place. So I'm looking probably more towards the end of the month for the first time to get them out here. And they're gonna be, you know, 5-hour shifts type deal, you know, 1 a week, 2 a week max type deal. And it's mainly cost more than anything and why it would be limited.
I'd be curious how people react seeing a city police car out here whether they're gonna understand that they have the same authority as county did, or if they're gonna say, no, they don't, cause they're, outside of their jurisdiction kind of stuff, and I guess we'll have to make sure we let people know that, no, they're under our jurisdiction.
So one of the reasons why I haven't brought them out quite yet is we are gonna add a page onto our website, under the community services that highlight the public safety part and do a little bit more informational stuff on Facebook and social media to let people know that that's out there and that's happening. But we wanted to have some information online about that agreement. Also, we still use the sheriff for lake patrols and the fire department, those type of things. And just have more of a public safety page on our website, so people at least have that to go to if they have initial questions. And then that way we can also add resources to it.
Yep.
And maybe even, I want to talk with the city a little bit. So we do obviously have the e-notify thing on our website. So, right now, if you sign up through the e-notify, you can get alerts on several of our pages. Oops, double clicked it. If there was a way to do something with this, where on that public safety page, we have if we need to update it about something, that's more of a community alert, we can do that so people get that notification spread out that way through text or email.
Just for clarification too, the city police is for road patrol and that kind of stuff. We're still using county for lake
Yes.
patrol? Okay.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
all right, so.
Mhm. And that is your council report. They meet next Tuesday.
Great, thank you. We have no public hearings, but I would like to open it up for public comment. I see we've got some people in the audience. Do we have anyone online?
No. Nobody with a hand up.
Okay, at this time, if we have public comment, I'd like you to state your name, your address. And you have 3 minutes.
I have no public comment, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Okay,
All right.
great. Well, hearing none, we'll move on to existing business then. Master plan.
Master plan. So this year we are required to update our master plan because it's been a little over 5 from our last one. And we've worked on this, gosh, almost 8-9 months, I think, at this point in time. And it started off with, we secured a grant. I can get back to the cover page on it. Maybe with Mishta to fund new target market housing analysis. So in your binders tonight, you have the plan itself. The final is going to include part of that plan as a Batman exhibit at the end. You've all had the full 300+ page report. I didn't feel it was necessary to burn through more trees at this point in time when this is the newish material for you guys to look at. But so we had this new target market analysis done. And we did that because our current master plan that we approved in 19 was based on a TMA that was done for the county. They pulled out some of the smaller jurisdictions, or actually the larger jurisdictions, I should say, the city, us, Union Township, and gave kind of smaller specific market segment for us. And that really was a foundational aspect of what we did with that plan and how we moved our land use in a more responsive manner towards meeting the market demands in our community since then. Think of garages for one area where we become considerably more permissive than we were a decade ago. So in your new draft here for the master plan, really the 3 areas I want to kind of focus on for you guys to talk about would be the goals, and then the implementation plan and zoning ordinance amendments to consider. Because I think we could probably do a little bit more on those last 2 items, but I'll kind of walk you through how it's structured. So we your standard introduction, talks about what the purpose of the plan is and how we arrived at this. You have your community profile and your history on page 2. So we talked about our, path to incorporation as a village, how we've been growing with purpose. One of the old mantras that, the plan commission had back when I started in 2004 was growth for the sake of growth is the philosophy of a cancer cell. If you're gonna have growth, have the right growth. And it was the knowledge then that, because of where we are as a community, we're gonna have growth. It's just naturally going to occur. And you only get that first chance to do it right the first time. So, make sure you do it right. Make sure that you have the development that you want to see come in as a community. So that you're not straddled with, issues long-term in terms of funding things and, just development that doesn't produce quality property values. Talk about our natural features. We got a lake, big shock. It's in the name, right? We do highlight on page 6, here's kind of where we're at in the greater mid-Michigan region. Through the use of technology, we're able to steal the state's transportation map right off their website.
Yeah.
And then because we recognize that we are a bedroom community, primarily, here's our main commute time. So, Mount Pleasant, Clare, Alma, Big Rapids, Midland, Grand Rapids, we list those right in there. Because at the end of the day, this is also a marketing tool for us in terms of being able to sell to community. So these are, foundational documents that people go to your website to look for, like, what's your plan, where you want to be. We do a little bit of deeper dive into our soils, because that is a very relevant thing in one part of our village. So, a lot of sandy soils in the purple area. So the west side of the lake, fantastic for on-site well and septic systems. It could have 4 inches of rain and my yard will be dry in a half hour, like it drains away. But we do have an area that we recognize where there are less than good soils. And that's right along Coldwater Road right here, especially towards Birdie Drive.
Oh.
So that area in green is a type of soil that is poorly drained, high seasonal, high water table, Onekama loam. That was where I was looking for. And even that pink band to the east of that green band has some pretty trashy soils in terms of water and sewer, that kind of stuff.
Yellow more of the clay area.
Yellow's more sand, yellow's
Oh,
fine, and this is right off the county's GIS portal, so you can go there and take this stuff right with them too. They use the USGS soil stuff. Then we move on to our census demographic data, which, let's just complain about the 2020 census more than I already have. Not only did they not count roughly 50 homes in the village, they also didn't break the countdown demographically in the male, female, and age like they had for the previous census. So while we had done a very clean job of tracking population, male, female, under 18, over 65, and 2020 they didn't do that. Here's your population. But the Census Bureau does a thing called the American Community Survey. So based on the ACS, their 2023 ACS estimated population for the village is 1,931, which I think is low. Your 18 to 65 population is 1,010. Your under 18 is 429, and your over 65 is 471, according to them. There you go.
We're represented.
In terms of ethnic and racial background, we're still very much a homogeneous community in terms of our racial and ethnic makeup. 93% identifying as white. In the 19 plan, we included Alice data, which is through the United Way. And the Alice project is asset limited, income constrained, employed. So these are people that are above the federal poverty level, but struggle to, you know, make ends meet essentially. And so they have here's an Alice budget for Isabella County. So these are the expenses that you would, bear based on your station, whether you're single, one adult, one kid, one adult, kid and childcare, all those type of things. And the actual data itself, in terms of what we are, in terms of Isabella County, Mount Pleasant, Union Township, Lake Isabella, Shepherd, Wapen. We were able to look at 17 and then 23 to compare and see what direction places are going. And for the most part, things really are improving in this regard. The county did see a slight uptick in the percentage of the population that would be at the federal poverty level, but a decline in the percentage that would be at the Alice threshold. Everybody but us went up in terms of those above. We stayed consistently the same, 8% at poverty, another 20% at that Alice threshold, with 72% above, which is still considerably higher than everybody else. Shepherd, increased from 54 to 65. So in general, positive economic change there. Then the new requirements in the law. So last year, the state of Michigan upped the requirements in your master plan that you have to include housing data. So this was never required previously. And it didn't give, a ton of direction onto what you have to do. So there is some, artistic liberty in terms of how you comply with this new requirement in the law. So what we've done is we partnered with Esri, a national data clearinghouse company that does a lot of GIS, that type of stuff, and access some of their data to compile outside of our own permit data. So the blue graph is new home permits annually. So you can see a sharp decline back in the late 70s, early 80s. One of the main reasons there, for those who don't know, is the Lake Isabella Corporation went into bankruptcy. So they weren't selling lots anymore. And then you see this nice increase through the late 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s, when 2008, the economy decides it doesn't want to work anymore, and you see this sharp bottoming out. Now you see a little bit of an uptick back in the last 5 or 6 years, but nothing at all like we were seeing the first few years I got here, when you're seeing 35 homes a year being built. And there's a whole host of reasons why that's happened. One of the two main ones, I think, are affordability. So new construction costs, it's not like you're building at $70 a square foot anymore. And also the lack of builders that want to build in that market. The reality is there's a shortage of builders across the board on all the trades, and finding them that want to build modest spec homes, and they can just build big custom homes and have a bigger margin. Tough one. The orange line is our cumulative new home permits. So you can see that increase and level off, and then growth again through that data. And then Esri, bless their hearts, they will also project out for you. So we have the census 24, the census 2020, the 24, and then the 29 projected. So that's looking at our housing units right there in this graph on page 14. Yep. And they also do median income and home value. So their conservative estimate for our home count in 2029 is 1,030. We're at about 100 or 1,010 right now. So we're well on pace to do that.
you know, I would do that. I mean, that's only
I would hope so.
Yeah.
20 more houses in
Yeah.
3 more years, 4 more years.
You know, because our data shows that by the end of this year, we've issued 1,028 new home permits since 1971. So, you know, and obviously not all of those were either built or stayed. You know, you've had some demolished, some had fire, some just didn't get built. And also looking at the Esri home value forecast. The blue is the 29, the gray is the 24. So you're seeing a good swath of homes in the village between 150 and 500,000 is that range for most of it. You're looking at when the homes were built, so the age of homes. One of the things I do want to work on before we do a final approved copy, you know, is get a map that maps this out geographically as well in the plan. So showing that like, here are the homes that were built in the 70s, or here are the homes that were built in the 80s, you know, or maybe delineate, you know, 25 years, you know, the most recent 25 and then the previous. We also lean into Esri for our market potential. So if you are familiar with our current master plan, it had a feature in there called market leakage or market gap. And that was basically, these are the dollars that are being spent by people in your community on goods and services and how much of that is leaving your community. Well, they don't make that product anymore, but they have one called the Market Potential Index, the MPI. And so you can break this down and get data on consumer habits, consumer spending, those type of things. And your median national score is 100. So if you're at 100, you're what the national average for that activity is. If you're above that, you do that more. If you are below that, you do that less. So where we rank the highest is having pets, dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, and then having insurance on 3 or more automobiles.
Do you think that includes side by sides or golf
don't know.
carts or
That
things
might,
like that?
yeah.
Might be.
That might be, yeah,
I figured
Yeah.
younger families with their kids or
yeah,
their driver's licenses, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what I would have attributed to.
yeah, it's a good point on the side by sides. And then you can also break this data down further into like specific activities. So the most popular restaurant that our residents, according to Esri, have gone to is Bob Evans down on the farm,
Well,
followed by Arby's and Texas Roadhouse. Then Dairy Queen.
so how do they get that information?
You don't want to know how Esri.
They are
get that.
Tracking where your debit card's
Oh, yeah.
swiping, where
Yeah.
your,
Oh, yeah.
what your habits on your credit card. Your
Mhm.
credit bureau might show.
Oh, yeah.
I've made this statement in this meeting before. Everyone's worried about what the government tracks. Government doesn't track anything. Your private companies track way more about you than the government ever would or could.
Credit card especially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're gonna see this later. Because when we look at our target market analysis snapshot, you know, we have the potential for 50 new builds a year in our market and another 25 a year getting rehabs in our market, just in the village. And, you know, the TMA says very specifically, there is a very limited market for any type of attached dwellings. If you're gonna look at anything being permissive, you know, it would need to be kind of a duplex scenario where there's a private entrance. So there's that privacy element, but beyond that, there's not that density type market in the community. So that's really a fantastic thing to lean into as we look at our master plan and how we implement that in the zoning ordinance, that, you know, we don't waste a ton of time dealing with stuff that isn't just gonna happen here. But going back to what corporate America knows about you, Experian goes a bit further and said, based on how you spend your money, we're gonna classify you into a different lifestyle cluster. So this was a feature in the 16 TMA. It's a feature obviously that we wanted in 24, because this to us is a very important thing, because it tells us what the characteristics are of people who are attracted to our housing market to live here, and to what changes we might need to make in our zoning ordinance to be more attractive in that marketplace for the people who naturally want to flow into our community. So when we look at our number one demographic in 2024 is sport utility families, representing 10% of our homes. Fall in that category. And we did do a breakdown in here to highlight kind of what these mean in greater detail for the top. I think 5 or 6 ones, but you know, they are upscale middle-aged couples, often with school-aged children, living active family-centered lives on the outskirts of metropolitan areas. These households typically reside in newer suburban developments that were once rural or farmland. Over time, families have aged in place, accumulating home equity while staying within a commuting distance. Sounds pretty spot on for a lot of people I know in our community. But you also have unspoiled splendor. Blooming couples living in tranquil town and country communities far from major metropolitan hubs. Reside in small suburban towns or subdivisions built on former farmland, often owning homes on generous lots. These homes typically feature middle-class incomes with a conservative fiscal mindset, having built solid retirement savings while remaining cautious spenders. That is the most Midwestern thing I've read. You know? You know, knowing that that's another almost 10%. Aging in place is almost another 10%.
Yeah.
Stock cars and state parks is 8%. Town elders is 7%. I mean, you're closing in on, you know, over 40%, close to 50% of your homes at that point in time, probably 45. You know, and we did see declines in certain areas. So like unspoiled splendor, the number of homes that qualify as that under experience metrics went up. So, I don't know. It decreased, I'm sorry, from 148 to 110. So, you know, lost a quarter, but because those other segments had such greater growth than that, it made it shrink considerably in size of what it represents in the total market here in the community. So it saw, you know, a pretty healthy decline of 11% of the overall homes. So you went from 1 in 5 homes being in that demographic to 1 in 10 in a 8-year span. There's our existing land use map. Another thing I do want to highlight, and I'll put in a future map. I did a count on the remaining number of waterfront spots in the village.
Which is
Anyone want to take a guess,
remaining,
12.
including the river?
say about 50.
130 something.
Holy crap.
What?
Wow.
Yeah,
Waterfront lots left?
yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
with like 14 of them being river, 125
So most of them are on the
on
water.
the water, yeah.
I wouldn't think it was that high. Oh.
Yeah.
Encouraging though, because it gives that much more growth that we can possibly look into, assuming that the growth is gonna happen the
Yeah.
fastest, so.
When you drive around.
No,
Still in the south end, guys. There's over 50 in Gulf State 2 alone.
Wow.
Yeah,
50.
yeah. Mike's got, what, 10 or so just in your subdivision over there.
Yeah,
Side condo, yeah,
19.5.
Yeah.
More than that, about 13.
yeah.
So is that along River Road?
That's,
Road, okay.
yeah. You can kind of see this. On the existing land use map, existing single family home sites are in gray, so the vacant ones are the white. So I mean, you got all up here, you got here, you got still several up on Pueblo, and you got this whole area through here. You get up north here, this is all built out pretty much, there's I think one left here. You got some up here in Canberra, you got a couple left on El Camino, you got one on Crown Point. You got one that is gonna be a challenge to be built on down by your house.
But it, yeah, I think.
You got a couple here, you got 3 here, you got, you know, 4 or 5 here, another 3 here. Yeah, it adds up.
Wow.
You got 2 up in Shores.
Very promising. I would have never guessed that.
I'm actually a little bit disappointed just because my brother had friends that lived down on the lake in Kalamazoo. And they bought a house for, I want to say it was $140,000. When there were still lots available to build on the water. That filled up over the next 5 or 10 years and their house pricing exploded.
Yeah,
$1 million houses. Buying for $150,000-$200,000 houses, once all the lots were filled and there were no more
Yeah.
buildable lots. Everything on the water just exploded, and that's
Yeah.
sort of what I was thinking would happen
Yeah.
here, but with that many lots, it's not gonna happen for a while.
you're still, I mean, based on our current rate of development,
Mhm.
you know, and where the market is and probably will be for the next couple of years. I'm gonna guess you're still gonna probably have 100 available at 2030,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Mhm. Yep.
And a big chunk of the development that we've seen has been since we were able to get the restrictions lifted. And
Yeah.
especially in South and Gulf State
Yeah.
too,
Mhm.
you know, that's
Mhm.
been a significant impact in terms of our growth. We talk obviously about our existing land use in both residential, commercial, the non-industrial, parks and rec, ag.
Back real quick, you said you had done the count for just waterfront, do you have any idea? Or did you do a count for how many lots are available overall the entire village?
I do that.
I
I
mean,
can,
I know we have what, 2,400?
23-ish hundred, yeah,
Yeah,
that range.
and how many are full versus how many are empty?
Yeah. So, and you know, you get into a scenario like, it takes time to go through the map because you can't just go off a house count because my house is in the middle of 2 lots.
Right, so you're never gonna have another house next to you, so.
Urbans have a house and a garage, you know, so they're taking up 2 lots, you
Right.
know, so that, you know, you do have to go through and then there is somewhat of a, you know, I don't wanna say an estimating part of it too, but if you've got somebody that's got a house on 1 or 2 lots and then they own 4 adjacent vacant lots,
Mhm.
you know, how do you compute that? Do you say, well,
If it was selling, it was
Yeah.
a buildable lot,
yeah,
you don't know if it's gonna be 2 lots or
Yep.
1 lot, 2
Yeah.
either, so, yeah.
you know, cause right now, Dunmore's old place is for sale. And we've had people come in and contact us about, hey, can I split off the side lots?
Mhm.
Well, if you meet all of the setbacks and stuff, yeah, cause it's a platted lot,
Mhm.
you know, so that sits on 4, the house really is on 2. I think the well and septic encroach on the southernmost, so. Where the tennis court is, it could theoretically probably split that lot off.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't count that as one of the waterfront ones, but. You know, so there are those type of scenarios that do come up there are gonna impact that plus or minus.
We still have a lot of potential growth,
We do,
yeah, quite a bit.
we do. Talk about some infrastructure, there's our major streets, all 7.8 miles of them. In all the glory. We did put some traffic count data in there, so, we have a traffic counter. And, last time yeah. Coldwater Road, about 3,500 vehicles a day.
Wow.
Queensway near Gilmore Park is almost 2,000 cars a day. El Camino is 1,500, give or take. Queensway down by Bundy is down to 12. This side of the lake, I think about 600-ish is where we max out right here by the golf course. But yeah, tons of traffic on the other side of the lake, really a ton of traffic.
Well, I hope Queensway never gets shut down.
Yeah, but that 3,500 number is also really kind of too low for a lot of commercial development.
Oh, yeah, commercial wise, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and, you know, that number needs to be north of realistically probably 5,000-6,000 if you wanna see anything more than a Dollar General and, you know, what we already have.
Well, I mean, right now, Sherbo's stuff there, the only commercial stuff on that whole side of the lake, right?
And that's not really zone commercial, it's zone that neighborhood mixed use, so it's more,
Mhm. But could be,
it could be like
Right.
light office, you know, that type of stuff, but not retail.
right,
I mean, there's no traffic there to support retail.
Is Proton still going for
I don't know.
with the
Yeah, sign's been up there
NGS
forever, so.
logo?
Yeah. Talk about our high-speed internet coverage, that is Homeworks Tri-County's fiber to the home coverage. So everyone in the community can get that, and you can also get Charter in most places.
CMS has been working their way out this way too, they're coming down River Road.
Yep.
quite a bit, I don't know how far they're gonna go.
And then as a default, planting the flag in the sand, there's the county's water system with the, village leaders should be cautious about such action of taking ownership and only explore in conjunction with acquiring the county park adjacent to the water system and the future well location site, as well as expanding the system to better financially support its operation. While it's understandable that Isabel County may wish to divest from ownership of the system, the resources and capabilities of that organization provide a better safety net for residents of the system than the village can currently provide at our current capacity. I put this in every time because that is a foundational arguing point when the county wants to come and dump the water system on us.
If that water system should ever just literally go away, you know, get chipped under the number fix or
They
whatever.
won't let them do it.
Okay, that was good, that's what I'm leading to, I mean, I know we could still go back to wells if we had to, but. That was my question, is would they ever be able to walk away from it?
No. State's not gonna let them unless there's a different type of plan in place, but,
Okay.
then going back to where you're talking about the Queensway
Mm-hmm,
corner there,
mm-hmm,
I talk about that a little bit later. We'll get back to that.
okay.
So community goals. Preserve and enhance small town charm. I'd like you guys to go through this list between now and our next meeting. And let me know what needs to be changed, what needs to be added. So you're on.
Page 34.
Page 34, yep. 34, yep. So these 3 pages, 4 pages, I'm sorry. Have all of the. Business and economic plan for fiscally sustainable growth. Collaborate with neighboring municipalities. I think these encompass a really good set of goals for the community. So that's homework assignment number 1. So the future land use map that's in the plan, pretty similar to our current. Future land use map. Breaking out it a little bit differently, so. The way this map is structured has a lot more room for flexibility for future decisions, so. Instead of saying LR1, LR2, LR3, detached single family, open space, private parks. Detached duplexes, where that would be potentially allowable. Detached duplexes, office light commercial. Attached single family office commercial, so. We break it more down into the use than the zoning district in this. That way you could go back potentially to your ordinance, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Like that area along Parr Drive, that faces the golf course. If you go back to our target market analysis, that's one of the areas that, if you're going to do any type of attached dwellings. They need to have vistas of the lake or the golf course, something like that, so. Potentially looking at having those be a special land use in that area. To allow that by, a special land use process, so there's a higher design requirement, those type of things to match that setting. Versus, a duplex somewhere else potentially, but very limited, options in that for where we would do that in the community.
Well, we can bring in some new aspects too of both low income and senior retirement type stuff. I mean, to me, that's something I think we should keep in mind to help try to develop more spaces being lived here. I'd like to develop by hitting the top and bottom ends as well, so low income kind of stuff like that, maybe some of those things where you talked about the small 1,000-foot square house, stuff like that, or retirement type stuff where it's focused of an area of retirement only. Nobody, family with kids or anything like that would live there, would be focused on retirement people, lower countertops, wider doorways, wider hallways, all that kind of stuff too.
And not. I'm trying to think of the most tactful way to say this. When you do low income housing, let's say, that needs to be done in an area where there is a wider array of support services in terms of transportation, proximity to schools, proximity to shopping, those type of things that,
Okay.
that's not gonna fit out here.
No.
You wanna, I think, look at, you know, a affordable or attainable housing potentially in that Alice group.
Mhm.
Because that has potential in that realm right there. Because one of the things that made the community what it is today is when the market imploded in 2008. You had opportunities for people to buy starter homes here,
Right.
you know, start their families here,
Mhm.
you know, that kind of stuff, and. The market has moved away from that everywhere, not just here, like there just isn't that housing in the market anymore. You know, with interest rates where they are.
But I guess I would change my low income then to more focus on single people wanting a place to live here and they're working in town, or,
Sure,
you know, mom with 2 kids, single mom with 2 kids kind of stuff. Lower in the sense of something you can afford, whether that's cheap apartments or.
yeah, but
something along those
you know, your
lines.
problem you're running there, it really goes back to transportation. We are a very transportation dependent community.
Yes, we are.
And,
Yeah.
You know, Leo, you talked a lot about this very eloquently about the school district problem
Yeah.
where, you know. This isn't any type of negative on the quality of Chip Hill, it's just logistically, it's a disaster for our community. When your middle and high school are that way,
Out of the
and
way.
everyone works primarily that way.
Yeah.
And, you know, so Beal becomes this natural by default school of choice option for everybody that wants to work in the Pleasant, take their kids to, because it's way more convenient.
And Beale City doesn't do busing out here, do
They
they?
can't, because we're not in district.
Oh, that's right, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they
But
do
you
do it
still
in
have
their
the
district.
issue then, who picks up the
Who
kids?
picks up the kids, yeah.
And that's where a lot of young people that did move out here moved back to Mount
Yeah.
Pleasant. In my tenure,
Yeah.
when I was at the bank, that, because they got tired of running back and forth
Sure, yeah.
several times a day.
Yeah, I had family the same
Yeah.
way, so they moved back to town because of that.
Yeah. You know, so knowing that reality, you know, that does put somewhat of a hinder on our, you know, that being a viable market out here. Just because that childcare issue is a very legitimate problem.
Yep.
And, you know, we've made our ordinance as probably as friendly as anybody I'm aware of in terms of daycares.
Mhm.
You know, quick, simple, easy. You know, to try and help meet that need, and it's still a challenge. It's still a legitimate challenge to find childcare and, you know, transportation stuff. You know, like, I've got a 12 and a 16-year-old. I've got one in varsity cheer, one in junior high volleyball, and the next 2 months of my life are just driving a car. I mean, that's what it is.
Carrots over driver's license, John?
She doesn't have her full stage 2 yet.
Okay. Mhm. That'll take a load off, so, you know, just like Jessica's
Maybe.
daughter driving now.
So back to what we were talking about a minute ago. We do identify, after we talk about the future land use map. Few specific areas where, you know, some plans maybe need to look at in the future, or, you know, a greater dive into what we do there. First is the airport. Newsflash, we only have to run that thing through the end of the year.
Mhm.
While we would love to transfer ownership to the pilots, that hasn't happened yet. So if they end up not wanting that property, you know, that becomes a legitimate question of what do we do with it long term? You
We're
know?
talking just.
Has there been a
discussion?
discussion
Oh, yeah,
and what are they leaning towards?
they're leaning towards, they don't know what they're doing. I mean, it's the
Mm.
reality of it.
So is it more than just the runway though? There's land attached to
There's
and
the
around the runway as well?
2 acres to it as well,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
You know, so what do we do there? That's something that we can't plan for yet because we don't know what the end
Right.
result's gonna be. Kind of
Well,
like policing.
if that comes back to us, such as if they don't take it over. You're not required to maintain it, you know, that's, but then what? But the ownership stays where? So, but you gotta do some maintenance or something for your own
Depends
property,
on what you do with it.
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, until you figure that out,
Yeah.
you'd have to maintain it somehow.
Unless you close the facility outright, yeah.
Right.
But how much,
After our 20 years is up, and it's up to, you know, for 20 years, they had to be 20 years since the last time we did any major
Well, that's
repairs
great
or
project.
upgrades or whatever to it. Once we fulfill those 20 years, There's no obligation to state a mission.
How much does that really cost the village? I don't know.
Used to
About
be
four
next,
grand.
yeah, it used to be next to nothing years ago. So.
What'd you say?
About 4. So
That's just the lights,
lights, insurance, mowing,
I
plowing.
mean, other than you got those type of things, I mean, we would still, as a community, as a village, you wouldn't just let it become until we figured out, I mean, it would be a somewhat taken care of site, wouldn't you? Or you just let it go?
Well, I could see the runway becoming a, public street, and houses and whatever don't.
That takes time though,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking,
But if that.
we're talking soon. What I'm talking about is at the end of the year,
Yeah.
What you're looking is grass cut.
come springtime, spring and summer next year, is it gonna be an overgrown?
No, we wouldn't.
Huh?
No, we would not do that.
What kind of usage does it get? I have no idea.
Almost none.
I saw one plane take off last week.
Pretty much because they fly right over my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, a white.
You know, they come right up the airport and they hit right up over my house.
Mm.
And I haven't had one in quite a while.
You know, and aviation is something that the Air Park plat was platted in 74, I think, mid-70s. You know, and even in the mid-70s, you still had a healthy number of World War II vets that had their pilot's license. And it was a cheap hobby. You could
Yeah.
tinker on planes, you could do all this kind of stuff where, you know, in 2025, it's not a cheap hobby.
No.
There's a very high hurdle of entry in terms of cost and those type of things. And there's a ton of competition around. There's some Mount Pleasant Airport, there's Claire, there's Ojibwa, there's
Canadian Lakes.
by Bandit,
Yep,
Woodruff Lake,
right.
you know.
Yep.
There's just a lot of that around and not a lot of people to fly. We have no FBO. We're landlocked in, so we can't expand the runway to make it longer. You know, it's not something that I think has a long-term viability in terms of an airport with a lot of regular use. It just isn't. You know, we don't want the airport, you know, just to close and be done with it. If they want to take it over and keep it running, God bless them, we will happily do that with them.
Right.
You know, but if they don't, what do we do?
And they'll still have their $3,000 to $4,000 a year in costs, you know, too, so they're gonna have to
Yeah.
collect. That from their association.
Can they actually operate it as an airport if they don't? If it's not maintained by us?
Well, yeah,
Things of that
the
nature.
biggest costs are insurance.
Right.
That's really the top dollar item in that budget. So, you know, if they, you know, they chose to put it perhaps into an LLC, with land at your own risk criteria, you know, clearly established in the MDOT aeronautical guide, that kind of stuff, that absolves that big expense, I think, for them in some sense, but I don't know.
how many people are part of the Cal Brewer Memorial Airport? Is
So
it
there's 50 lots in the plat.
50?
Yeah. And I think 2 maybe are active buyers, maybe 3.
Okay.
Most of the, hangars don't even have planes in them,
No.
you know, they're more storage than they are
No.
airport hangars anymore nowadays.
So
Spot for Walmart.
next would be where Jeff was talking about earlier, Queensway and Bundy. And so one of the things that we point out in plan here is that this area does have a little bit of potential to do. Where's my battery burn? Plug it in. Potentially a little bit higher, I'll say density development.
Yep.
Not worry here. No, we're good. Oh, okay. Only because those lots that. There we go. Okay. Go back to our friends of the county. The water system.
Almost right, yeah.
Here's Tequesta, here's Bundy, here's Queensway. You know, they have the potential to tap into that water system if they need to do any type of, you know,
Yeah, but the current wells that are there right now, limit how many new houses they could put on there, wouldn't it?
no,
Oh, wouldn't?
no,
So I can put 100 more houses on there? Do you
Oh,
think the
easy.
well system can handle all that?
oh, easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't think it would. So.
Oh, no, the two wells the county have there, yeah, they could easily handle probably another 300 homes.
So they
Easily.
overbuilt it with the idea that we're gonna
Because it
expand.
was gonna expand.
Right, okay.
They never did. So, you know, that corner there. Where the hub used to be,
Mhm.
still is. You know, there is some type of potential there to do. You know, any type of development that you could lead into a water system for in terms of that and not have to deal with. You know, a community type system if you want to do a assisted living home. You
Okay.
know, something like that, or a office type thing, you know. And one of those where you deal with a different type 2 or type 3 well system in the state. You know, that has the potential right there to negate that extra need that you would have as a developer. And they would love the usage at the county.
Yeah.
Then we have our lots up in north that we've begun those conversations on. The council did discuss this at their meeting last month. And, you know, we talked in the plan about here are the lots, kind of dividing it up potentially into 2 different areas, with one being returned back for residential use and then the other. Multiple uses that have been discussed. Nothing, you know, concrete anyway. First, talked about cemetery many times up in them there hills. Walking path, office park,
Community center.
residential, public use if we're looking at. You know, Chip Hills needed a new elementary school or soccer complex, ballpark, whatever. And then also. You know, this area here, these would be the lots that we would look to retain in that scenario. You know, the Wolverine Power Company transmission lines are literally across the street. If we looked at potentially a small solar field as a revenue source, you're not taking away farmland, you're not having any of those negative impacts in terms of why people hate solar. It's a smaller project. And that could potentially be a revenue stream for the community. You know, that's an option too, potentially to look at long term. Again, all these are just long-term options. Sooner or later, something's gonna have to happen with these lots. We've sat on since 2020.
Yeah.
Or 2000, I'm sorry. Here's our current zoning map. You know, and this. You guys have done a tremendous amount of work, since the last master plan update to get the ordinance. I think in a really good spot. I really like the direction that we've gone the last couple of times where we do big updates. We don't just tinker here and there, so we let things cook for a while. These are all of our current zoning districts that are in the current ordinance, and nothing land breaking there. There's our current district regulations. All this is currently in the ordinance. Our criteria for future rezoning requests, that's in the current master plan, so we retain that because that's an important thing. So if someone did have a rezoning request, say, oh, does this meet for our master plan goals? And is it consistent with what the plan lays out? Because you are required to have a zoning ordinance based on a plan in Michigan, is what the law says. And then I tried to present this differently this year. And I probably spent way too much time trying to make this look decent, but yeah, I'm not happy with how it ended up. But so we went back to that future land use map in those districts that we currently have. And put it into a table, says, so your future land use category says, this is the use. Well, here's our existing districts. You know, what would be suitable all our current districts with what that map says. And then what changes might we need to make, you know, to any of them to make it jive better, you know, with that. So, look at that as part of your homework, and especially the next page, which was potential zoning ordinance to amendments to consider, and there's only 9 because you know, we just did. a whole bunch.
Did a lot of work over the years.
You've done a lot of work, so like, legitimately, I think the ordinance and the plan really are in pretty good spots. It just needed the, you know, 5-year update. You know, identify housing types and styles that jive with the TMA. Do we want to look at reducing dwelling size requirements from that TMA report? That was part of those. Consider public use for the village hall, DPW, so take these out of the LR1 or district where we are right now. Provide incentive for shared parking agreements, connections between parking lots, bikes, pedestrians, EV charging stations, so we don't do it, we just make the developer do it if we have development, which probably not gonna have a whole lot of it in that realm. You know, we'll look at creating pre-approved plans for certain projects to expedite the approval process, so we've talked about that a couple of different times in the past, you know, garages, sheds, those type of things, you know, looking at those in terms of. Is there an avenue to create kind of like, here's our vision for this area, you know, whether it's the residential lots in north that we're looking to get rid of, or. You know, something like that, what to do with the airport long term. You know, so do we need to lean into perhaps getting you know, intern from CMU that's good with graphic presentations to visualize some of those out for us a little bit better. And then the implementation strategy, this is the last part of your homework. Because I would like to get a little bit more meat on the bone on this page perhaps, but. So review development regulations, street design standards, enforce blight regulations. Collaborate with property owners to attract investors to develop new housing options. Marking vacant land through the village's website and our MMDC membership. Identify areas where stormwater issues exist and ensure that we can properly manage stormwater issues. Create age-friendly housing options, including assisted living and downside homes for retirees. Support agritourism and farm-to-table ventures in the community. I think that probably has more potential for development than some commercial, quite frankly. Universal barrier-free design, promote that. Really make information available on our website. Update the ordinance to align with the plan. Increase communication and engagement, market information from the TMA and our ESRI data. Help track development. Consider expansion of services only in targeted and specific cases. In recreation. That should be recreation things, yeah. Not waterfront. So we have a 5-year approved DNR Parks and Rec master plan that we did for the community bond that we presented in 22. You know, we've not had any future conversations with the association about, are there non-waterfront things they would be interested in having us look at providing for the community? You know, that would be the only time we'd want to enter that space, certainly not looking to compete with them or anything of that nature. But if there were non-waterfront things, you know, pocket park, that type of stuff, fitness station, you know, those are things I think we could add to our portfolio that wouldn't compete with or challenge them in any way, shape, or form. Continue to prohibit short-term rentals. Allow a range of dwelling sizes, continue to focus on housing infrastructure and quality of life, so. On that, range of dwelling unit sizes, one of the things that I think we could look at doing is. And if you remember back to our. Site plan exercise we did earlier this year with the. Condos that were never built, the planned project. The way that the ordinance was presented in that exercise was. The average size of the dwelling units needed to hit this mark. So you could have above, you could have below. So that allowed the developer the flexibility to do a 1-bedroom as opposed to everything having to be a 2-bedroom. So it allowed that mix in that project. I think that's a reasonable thing to look at changing if we get further into the ordinance. that is your master plan draft in a nutshell. Most important thing really is the timeline. So we've already sent the notice of plan out. We did that a while ago. Once you guys have reviewed the draft and made changes to it, you need to recommend it to the village council. The village council must approve the draft for distribution to everybody that we notified in step one, which is the county, adjacent municipalities, utilities, railroads, Santa Claus, Easter Bunny,
Anybody and everybody gets.
everybody and anybody.
Right. That's around here.
Once that happens, you have a 63-day dead period, as they would say in college football recruiting, where it's called the comment period. So all those entities have 63 days to get you your comments, and after that, you folks get to hold a public hearing. Make changes to the draft as necessary from the hearing, from all that stuff. And then, at that point in time, if the council adopts a resolution saying they want to be the final approvers of it, you recommend it to them. If they don't, you guys get the final approval of the document. So based on those statutory requirements and what our meeting schedule looks like, if you guys recommend this out to the council next month, and they take action on it on September 23rd, which is their September meeting, because it's a week late this year. So there's a week between because I'm gone that week. That would put your public hearing at December 9th. So. I wouldn't recommend kicking it out tonight. I would like you guys to have some time to look through it, hard copy version as opposed to the electronic version. Because if you're like me, that does matter considerably in how you take notes and that kind of stuff.
So would there be a time for us to discuss any of this
Yeah.
before it went to?
Yeah, tonight, next month, whatever you wanna do.
I think unless there's something you wanna talk about now, I'd like to read it over more detail, come back next month with maybe any notes here and there, and we all review if we all have notes or.
So we gotta have it done by next month, right?
Yeah, so if we review the goals on page 34.
Yep.
Look at the zoning ordinances starting on page 46. And then implementation on page 48. So those are the three assignments. If you bring your notes back September 9th, then we can all discuss it and see where we stand and.
If there's other areas you read and you wanna comment, by all means, please do.
I got a quick question.
Those are the meat and potatoes that.
I got a quick comment on these strategies.
Yeah,
We hit it once before, but so one of them is the enforce blight regulations and utilize the civil infraction process.
mhm.
To my knowledge, that's not working all that great.
No, it's working pretty decent.
I thought I saw we had 23 last month or something.
And that they were still. We were giving infractions to people and they were still having stuff not cleaned up.
There has been a minor increase in that area where we have had to go to a formal hearing this year with one property that despite 8 tickets, still wouldn't clean up their crap.
Cause I can go, I'm just curious, cause I can go on the west side and see a whole lot more than one property.
Well, it depends on what you're seeing, because clutter is not blight. Blight is specific to like specific items.
Tires.
Tires, appliances,
High
unlicensed
grass.
vehicles.
Half falling apart houses.
You know, we have people like, oh, that place looks horrible. Well, that place has got kids and their kids' craps all outside. That's not blight. That's clutter.
Yep.
Those are different.
And I'm still saying there's more than one.
Yeah, right. I know.
And we're not, I mean, it's not set in stone that we have to do
Mm.
everything like he just listed it out by month by month. If we come in next month and we have a ton of stuff to talk about, doesn't mean we can't push it another month down the
Sure.
road, you know.
We're trying not to.
We're not fixing.
Yeah, I just wonder when we said that, if we were gonna have that, if our meeting laid before it needed, where we could discuss it before. So September.
I think if you had some good ideas or some concerns and you wanna see if others are on board, shoot an email and we could
Yeah,
do something via.
I don't necessarily have any, I just wondered.
No, I'm just thinking though, for any of us, if you had something that really stuck out to you that you wanted to chat about and make sure where everyone stood, we could always do something via email, so we've got the creative ideas flowing and bring them back on the night
Keep
too.
in mind, if we do stuff through email, we have to abide by Open Meetings Act. And we also have to realize that whatever email address you're using is now open to FOIA requests. So somebody puts a FOIA request in on your personal Gmail account, you have to turn over everything in the Gmail account.
No, you don't. You have to give Jessica access to go through it.
Oh, okay, so, but I mean, to me, I look at it
That's why I
as.
tell you, don't reply.
Yeah, don't do the reply all, so.
Don't reply, period. Call me.
Mhm, yeah. So, I mean, yes, it's a good way of talking back and forth and doing that stuff, I personally would rather do it in a meeting.
Yeah, you can't have discussion through email.
Right.
It's not allowed.
There are limitations. But it doesn't mean you
but-
can't send out an email, and say, hey, I really am thinking about this kind of stuff, let's talk about it. Next month, please, okay, that's, we can put it on the list and say, that's a concern we wanna talk about in a public meeting.
Dun, 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 dun. Right here, September.
Did we have did you have a list of, infractions?
No, it's just in the meeting packet, there's.
Oh,
it shows
We
how-
don't provide a
Doesn't say
list
who they are.
individually, we give you the cumulative.
Yeah, okay, I missed it, cause I use it, I must have missed it.
I
I know,
think
I usually see it at the meetings.
I did this super tiny, but it might be, it's page 7 or 8, somewhere in there.
That page.
Okay, well, I think, Tim, will you double check online for me again one more time? We have no new business, so I just want to make sure there's nobody out there for public comment online.
Hey, I bring up so current year to date, we have hit 217 cases, including 166 blight cases.
Oh,
So that encompasses, lawn grass, that's licensed vehicles, that's, you got a refrigerator or a stove out. You got household trash, you got all kinds of stuff.
Well, yeah,
You know,
it's a lot.
it's,
I would assume,
it's about average.
lawn grass has gotta be a majority of that, isn't it? The blight?
Not this year,
No?
it's been pretty dry,
Yeah.
so. Nope, nothing.
okay, so we'll open it up to the floor. You can state your name.
My name is John Boyd, 1063 Crown Point. Very good meeting, guys. I've never attended. I just became a board member for the association. And so I wanted to just pop in since I was here. I don't live here. But if I could ask a question, and somewhere, a great presentation, Tim, by the way. Do you keep, all these stats and census and so forth? Do you have information on how many folks have properties here that don't homestead here?
Yeah, we can actually get that.
I just think that's important. My taxes are through the roof.
Yeah, if you're not homesteaded.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
just me, I can find issues with all the things we're trying to spend money on, and all I see are my taxes going up. And so, yeah, I'm sure I could sell and move in. I want to see the community do great, right? This to me has been a cottage vacation
Mhm.
getaway community. I know we have to have a master plan with what the future is gonna bring. So I just curious if there's many folks like me.
So
I can't vote, you talk about.
yeah, I can tell you. The number of homes that, just off the top of my head without getting specific, I'd say about 15% are seasonal or vacant that don't have a PRA attached. Where we would have to draw that out further is making sure that if we did the whole roll, that it wasn't just vacants on there as well, but the housing stock, 85%, I think, are PRE at this point in time, give or take. And taxes, since you brought it up, that is what you pay as a property owner in the village of Lake Isabella. You get dinged with that 18 mil for your non-homestead school tax. The county, with the plethora of services they provide to our community from their general fund at 6.61 mils. You don't know me, I'm being incredibly sarcastic.
Okay.
Courts in a jail for 6.61 mils.
Yeah.
Your state education tax. Our school district, Chip Hills, has 3 different debt millages. There's 3,875. Our ISD has voc and special ed on top of their operational for about 5. 3 mills that the community voted to do lake restoration. 1 mill for fire, everybody pays that. Then you're paying another mill for the county medical facility. Another 876 for Commission on Aging, another 86 to the county for IRIDE, another 3, a third of a mill for parks, because that 661 can't fund those. You throw in your township operating millage at about 0.9. In your village, what you pay here is 0.8 of a mil, so 3%, way less than that, because they gotta do the 18 mils for you, is what we get here. So 100% don't argue with your point that you get taxed quite a bit.
But none of that money, almost none of that money comes back.
You know, so as we look at city, but that's one of the things that we've looked at considerably in that is that. You know, there are needs in our community for roads, there are needs to continue with the lake, there are needs to do policing potentially. And if we can fund those here by becoming a city and staying tax neutral on the millage side of the equation by redirecting the 1 mil you're paying to the township to the village. That's $85,000 a year we can reinvest in our community and not tax you more to do that with.
85,000 against the $3.5 million.
Yep.
No, that's your total taxes, so. Like. When we look at. What those dollars could be invested into in our community. The 3 things that we have looked at and said, you know. We're not gonna be able to fund at the current. 0.8 of a mil. Our local streets, so those were primarily all done through special assessment. The county doesn't provide the sheriff's department anymore, and, you know, the community's spoken pretty loudly that they want investment in the lake, so.
I know that I can go onto the website.
Yeah.
And that was very informative to me, so I don't wanna take everybody's time with.
So I'm happy to talk to you anytime you want.
My question on that issue, excuse me. I've just heard, and I've never been able to quantify it, that if it becomes a city, the lake becomes public.
Lake is already public.
Okay, but the access to get on it is.
Yeah, that doesn't change.
That's with private.
Yeah, that doesn't change at all.
Won't change, so.
No. No, it's private, the parks are owned and maintained by the association, that wouldn't change.
So do the city boundaries change? I saw that.
We had an option when we first started this, if we wanted to do that, but council decided that there was no
No, we're not
reason
doing
to.
a land grab, we're not doing any of that.
Right, so we'll stay at the current boundaries.
We're literally like, you know, we want the 1 mil we're paying to stay here.
Right.
That we're paying the townships to
Mhm.
stay in our community. We can provide the assessing and election services that you have to do when you become a city just as well. And do it from this building that's open 5 days a week with full-time staff,
Right.
vote here.
We get a mayor.
So we have a village president, you would have a mayor, there,
You have another layer of bureaucracy is where I'm going.
no, no, you have one less.
Just change the names
Yeah,
from
literally.
president to mayor.
Yeah. So your village president would be a village or a city mayor, they're the same office. Instead of village council, you'd have city commission. The number of bodies doesn't change, their titles do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you lose that township layer of government completely, so it is less government.
Yeah, from that aspect. I just like the idea that what you pay Broomfield and what you pay Sherman Township right now for next to nothing, that we actually get back here in the village, all that money now comes back. Granted, it's only 85,000. but it's something, you know, that we can do with that, and
number
we
would
have
just
all
continue to
total control at
increase.
that point.
What do we become responsible for that we're not now?
Assessing and, elections, billing, taxes. So we already do our own summer bill.
Right.
We would do a winter bill and your tax bills, the two a year that you'd get. You'd have one that in the summer is everything you get right now in the summer, and one in the winter that's everything you get. The big difference in terms of how that would work is instead of having a township assessor, we would have a city assessor, which we would do the same way the townships, which is through a contractual basis on per parcel count. But the most significant change is if you didn't like what's on your tax bill, we have to have a board review of Lake Isabella residents at that point in time, not township.
Right.
So it's your neighbors that you come and complain to about your taxes, not people outside the community. So I think that does have a significant value for a lot of people too, is, you know.
Still doesn't get me a vote though.
Still didn't get you a vote. You're not gonna get that unless you move here, you know? And that's, you know, we've struggled with that dynamic on past projects when we've talked about special assessment or voter millage. You know, what's the equitable solution? We've done a lot of street through special assessments. Over the years, the council has moved away from that to more voter approved. But yeah, that unfortunately doesn't change no matter what. You can only vote in one place. Cause you're downstate, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I thought.
It's getting closer though.
Is it?
I'm getting tired of maintaining two places.
Listen, I can understand that. I'm getting tired of maintaining the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well, but thank you for the info.
Yeah,
And great meetings.
anytime, I'm happy to talk to you.
Thank you.
Talk with you. Oh,
Oh, and see the other couple left.
oh yeah, they left a long time ago.
Wasn't paying attention.
They were not too thrilled by it.
We're too boring.
Yeah,
Right, with that, we'll close public comment. Any member comments? Okay, well, I will make one comment, back to the whole email thing. If you have ideas, email them to
Email
him,
to
and he's
me,
not
then I
going to
can-
respond. So, right, he'll compile so that we don't get in trouble for.
Yeah.
I think,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to clarify that for everyone. Any
But that was
announcements?
your-
No retirements? No, everyone's good? Okay. Well, hearing nothing, I think that, we're ready to adjourn at 8:27.